Hello, good day, everyone. Welcome to Deaf Vermonters Advocacy Roundtable. I am Rebecca.
And I'm Laura. And today we thought we'd have a discussion with you all about COVID-19 and give you some updates. So, Rebecca, what kind of updates do you have to share? What's going on now in the state of Vermont?
Well, before I get into the updates, I first wanted to mention that this is specifically going to focus on Vermont and what pertains to all Vermonters, not so much the greater nationwide. So, in Vermont, I want to talk about who can actually get the vaccine right now. Basically, essential workers such as firefighters, police officers, hospital workers, doctors, nurses, etc., anyone who works right there with patients, or anyone who's in the office and deals with patients directly. People that are in group homes, nursing homes, elder care can also get the vaccine right now. So it's not ready and available for everybody yet. They're doing it in different sections and different segments of the population, so it is a process.
And really, it's just a reminder to people that it's their decision if they choose to get the vaccination or not. It's not something they're forced to do. Of course, we are encouraging people to go ahead and get vaccinated just so they can protect everybody. And once everybody's vaccinated, we'll still have to follow some of the regulations and rules that are already in place, such as mask wearing and social distancing. Those items will have to continue until hopefully the cases in Vermont and all throughout the world lower to an extent where things are back to normal.
That's a great point, Laura. I think oftentimes people think, oh, this vaccine is a cure-all. I can just mask off and hug people. That is not the case. Even though you're vaccinated, it's a good way to protect yourself, but you still need to wear masks. You still need to wash your hands. You still need to social distance. So again, until everybody is vaccinated, until the numbers are down, people still have to abide by these precautions. So who's the next eligible group for vaccinations?
Well, people who can get vaccinated at this point are people who are age 75 and above. That's who's going to be able to get vaccinated. And later on, we'll have to wait for a bit for people in the younger age group to get vaccinated. I'm sure some people are going to go ahead and choose to get vaccinated and request to get vaccinated, but really it depends on where they live.
Good point. The other thing I looked into is that January 25th, anyone who is 75 and older and living in Vermont can get vaccines. And how you go about doing that is you would call in or do an online registration. And so those who are providing the vaccines are not going to reach out to you. You actually have to do this yourself. So again, either call or register online. They have not yet given the phone number or the website yet. They're going to announce it as soon as they get towards January 25th. So please keep an eye out for the number and the website. The Vermont Department of Health, it's vermonthealth.gov, I believe, is the general website.
Yes, you're right, Rebecca.
Great.
Yeah, there will be state representatives that will find a way to get the information out to people about these COVID vaccines.
So again, the Vermont Department of Health website, vermonthealth.org or .gov, is really going to be your critical place for information sourcing. So see if you have any questions, contact them there. If you want details about who's next in line for the vaccine, etc., look at their website. So again, Vermont Department of Health, that's where you need to look. So again, 75 and up. And also they said the next category is people that have a high health risk. Do you want to talk about that, Laura?
Sure. Health risks that might include people who need oxygen as support, who have cancer. You know, there's just a variety of like comorbid situations that people might need to get the vaccine if they have asthma or if they're already in a serious situation or ill, they might need to get it as well. So there is that group of high risk people who would be able to get that vaccine.
Right. And also I looked into the stats, anyone who has asthma, severe asthma, as well as diabetes or a heart or lung disease condition. Those folks can also get the vaccine in this next round, regardless of age. So again, please remember, If a person wants to or not, it's their choice. This is not a forced vaccination. Everyone has their own, prerogative of what they're going to do and choose for themselves.
Exactly.
So I did look on the website for Department of Health. They've said to date, 35,000 Vermonters have been vaccinated, which is a pretty significant number so far.
Wow, that's great.
So do you happen to know which vaccines are available in Vermont?
Well, there's two that I'm aware of. One is called Moderna. I'm hoping I spelled that correctly, Moderna. And the other one is Pfizer, Pfizer. And they are different vaccinations. But I have to say that the Pfizer, um, one of the issues that they have is it needs to be ultra cold during its storage and during the shipping process. Where Moderna makes it a little bit easier. It doesn't have to be at that ultra cold temperature when it's shipped or stored. So really, there's no big preference about which one. I would suggest going to the Daily Moth website, and they explain in detail about the two different options for vaccines if you're interested in more information.
Fantastic. The other thing that I've noticed about those two vaccines, both Moderna and Pfizer, they have similar efficacy rates, 94 to 95% for both, which is a very high efficacy rate. And also they said that both of them have similar side effects. I've looked at the list and they are quite comparable. So pain at the injection site, a little bit of dizziness, headache, chills, maybe some joint and body pains. Fever is potential. So again, all these side effects are comparable. With Moderna, they've got two different things ingredient-wise that are different than the Pfizer that affect the side effects, vomiting and muscle aches. But with the Moderna, I haven't noticed that. But again, it's not been reported by a ton of people. For the most part, people who get either vaccine are having very similar side effects. And so the injections are either 3 weeks or 4 weeks apart, depending on which one you get.
Right. And also, when it comes to the vaccination, you're going to have a series of 2 shots. So really, after the second shot, you'll see how effective it is. So basically, once you get both shots, then you can make sure to see if it's actually being effective or not. It's important, again, that you still wear masks, that you still social distance, and we still follow those guidelines for everything to go on the upswing and for people to continue to get better through this time of COVID.
Yeah, again, the vaccine is not a cure-all. It's not like that magic bullet. They're still researching to see what the effects are, how long it lasts, et cetera. But they are strongly recommending that even after you've been vaccinated, you still wear your mask, you still social distance, because again, community spread is the biggest factor and we want to prevent that.
You're right. We all need to work together. It's our responsibility to support each other through this.
Absolutely. So I did see images on a website about what your lungs look like after you've had COVID. So it has a picture of regular, normal lungs, healthy lungs, and then smoker's lungs, and then COVID lungs. So please take a look at this.
Wow. Yeah.
Pretty astounding. So you can see the difference, like how serious COVID is and how it does impact your lungs and your ability to breathe. So in interviews with people that have had COVID, they said it is such a struggle to get a breath in. And now with this image, I can see why. Having COVID is worse than being a smoker in terms of how your lung capacity functions. So please mask up.
And also, I notice some people think that it's not a big deal, but symptoms vary depending on the person. Like somebody who might not think it's a big deal has to be careful because you don't realize that you never really know if you're carrying it or could spread it to somebody else. So you really need to pay attention. Some people get regular colds, of course, and that's something to pay attention to. And you should stay home until you feel better. but maybe it's not just a cold. You're never sure. So you really have to, you know your own body and see how the different symptoms are affecting you, because it can affect everybody in a different way.
Yeah, that is true. So if you happen to have COVID, you may be asymptomatic. You may have severe symptoms. You may have mild symptoms. Again, it's a case by case basis. Not everybody's going to have the same reaction to this virus. You might not all have the same symptoms. So, again, know your body, know what is regular for you, know what's a regular cold, but also know when it's not and get things checked out. The other thing I want to talk about is some facts. So, as of January 18th, the total in Vermont is 10,321 cases of COVID-19. I'm hoping we can stay at that or under it. And I'm sure if you look online at all the stats, you can see how many people have had COVID, how many have recovered, how many have died, how many have gotten vaccinated. So again, www.helpvermont.gov. Fantastic website, all the stats and information there. The other thing I want to emphasize is that Vermont's goal is to focus on saving lives first and foremost. So that's why essential workers are vaccinated, and then 75 plus are vaccinated, and then it'll be the 65 plus group. And eventually they will tier down to different age groups. But also the serious health risk folks, they're in that 75 plus category, but they do have that listing out there of the schedule of vaccinations.
And everybody just has to be patient, keep wearing those masks, keep social distancing. I mean, again, we all need to work together and be accountable for our actions. So through this, we will reduce the number of cases, and that's what we can do at this point. I know it's tough, and I know people are having a hard time coping.
Yeah, speaking of coping, we're doing what we can. Please remember that it's not easy, and coping skills are really essential to get us through this. It's a daily struggle on how we can navigate this new world with a pandemic. Everyone is experiencing it. You're not alone. I struggle sometimes. I'm sure Laura struggles sometimes. Everybody is in this together, and everybody's having a hard time with the pandemic. You might have real good days. You might have really hard days. You might break down a little bit and feel frustrated. Whereas other days you feel like, oh, I'm doing my regular productive life. So please keep in mind that coping changes on a day-to-day basis for all of us. Laura, do you want to add a little bit more about coping?
Sure. Um, Having good coping skills is essential. You have to take care of yourself and focus on self care during this time of COVID. I mean, I like to go outside, I like to travel. There are many things that I love doing. And I just realized, wow, I can't do that at this point. I need to stay home. I need to keep people at a distance and really take care of myself. So, I mean, I'm an extrovert, so I love being social and going out and doing some things. And some people are introverts, might not mind staying at home so much, but it's important that you stay at home, do the best you can at home. I'm so fortunate to have two dogs that I can go outside in this rural area and take walks with. And I have family that care about each other very much. So I know with my sister and my parents and whatnot, we are very close to each other. And so we are really cherishing this family time and taking advantage of it to the best of our abilities right now. And we're just learning how to support each other through this as well, and more so than we ever had before. So now I'm actually finding time to read more. I'm learning more. I'm doing different projects, doing different things at home to keep me busy and alone and with my family. I started writing letters to people. So, looking back on what my life was like before COVID and the things I did, and how it's changed, I'm appreciative of how things have changed in some ways.
Yeah, that's so true, Laura. And I think in terms of coping skills, it's been a huge learning lesson for me, just like you. Like, I'm also an extrovert. I love to hang out with people, like to be outdoors, go socializing. And as soon as the pandemic hit, I just was at a standstill. And I've got 4 kids, and we were all struggling to figure this out. And the stress increased for me. Like, how do I explain this to my kids? How do I make sure they're safe and that we're safe and deal with their frustrations? And it's been a learning process for me. I keep trying to look forward as opposed to looking back and wishing for what was, but think, okay, this is our new norm. How can I make the most of it in the moment? And it is a challenge. And I just take it day by day by day. And my husband is currently working from home, and that's a whole different dynamic now that we're all in the house together. It's 6 of us in that house, and we get a little stir crazy sometimes. It's a work in progress, but the love is still there. I do notice that it's hard for all of us. I've noticed in terms of my reading, definitely increase that. That's my biggest coping skill. That's the way I can escape from reality, so to speak, and just take a time out, dive into a book, dive into a story, get a little rejuvenated, and then feel like I have the energy to go back and tackle what's in front of me. So, everybody's got their own coping skills. And you got to have your me time. That is critical because self-care is of the utmost importance right now. Please recognize when you're at that breaking point and when you're struggling. It's not a bad thing. It's not a blemish on your record. We all have these moments of anxiety, the blues, depression. Please acknowledge that and then look at what you need to support yourself through it. You might want to reach out to a counselor or a therapist online. Or maybe you've got a good friend you can Zoom with or FaceTime with.
Right. Just give them a call and chat with those friends, catch up, share the latest news, do those kind of things. And really, it's okay to cry. It's okay to break down. It's totally normal during this time. I mean, it's so hard not to be able to see anybody else. So, do what you can. If you break down, that's fine. Take a bath, rest, do some binge watching on TV. So just do things that make you feel good, that make you release some of the stress that from reality that's happening now. So I just know it's really an important time to focus on that.
Yeah, and there is no wrong way to do this, people. You have to do what's right for you and do something that works well for you, please. Maybe take a walk by yourself. Get outside and get that fresh air. Maybe walk around town. I mean, if you're in cities and urban areas, please make sure you are wearing your mask because you're going to be in contact with other people. But again, there's no right or wrong way to do this. There's no right or wrong way to cope. You do what's best for you. The other thing is, please do not be afraid to reach out and ask for help. More and more people are relying on technology, as I'm sure you've seen, Zoom and FaceTime, Duo, all the platforms out there.
Yeah, there's a variety for sure.
Yeah, so you got to have those conversations with people. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to your therapist or your counselor, please. In the long run, you got to make sure that you're accessing these supports so you can feel better. So, related to coping is relationships during COVID and how these are impacted.
Sure. Relationships vary from person to person. There's such a variety of relationships. And you can see I have this relationship right here with this fur baby right next to me. It makes me feel better to have the pup near me, and I'm sure it makes the pup feel better too. I recognize that relationships are so important to me. I really cherish being with people, family, and friends, and I realize how important that those relationships are. I have to protect myself too at the same time. I realize if there are people who care, that care deeply about me too. And during COVID, there's that temptation to want to reach out and text with a lot of people. And sometimes, you just need to take a step back as well and just find out who's really there for you. Who do you have a true relationship with? Um, instead of some having just superficial relationships. So it's just really important to recognize who's important in your life and be there for each other, especially during this time dealing with this pandemic. Really, people can just be so important. We learn so much from each other, and relationships are just so important. We just need to take care of each other. And when COVID is over, then we can always make those relationships even stronger with those people because we're learning more about them now and we're learning more about each other and ourselves too.
Yeah, I know we talked about this a little bit before. Like, as soon as COVID hit, It was either a make or break situation for a lot of relationships. So some people might have their ups and downs and struggle with their partner, even pre-pandemic, or even family dynamics. That might be really tricky and they've already been struggling, and that might really be exacerbated, or they might find a way to connect and support each other more. So again, some families or relationships really have a hard time and others seem to be holding strong through this pandemic. And it's really been an eye opener for all of us, like, oh, what are our relationships? How are we navigating the day to day with the people in our lives that are closest to us? How can we communicate better? Because I've noticed that's been a key factor on my end.
Right. And I notice it's so important to really express how I'm feeling, share that I need time to myself, and share that with them. Like maybe I shouldn't be contacted for a little bit, just because I need time to myself. Or maybe I just need to go to my room and not communicate with other folks for a while. So I have a nephew and a niece who both are not deaf. And I used to spend a lot of time with them. And I know sign language is very, very important. I'd love to teach it to them. So I'm encouraging them to sign more. And it's just important for me to have that communication so that we can understand each other and find out what's wrong with each other. So sometimes it's frustrating for me and kind of anxiety provoking. And it's not their fault. It's just, we're just working on communication in a better way. So it's a good time now, for me to encourage them to communicate better, to express themselves and share how they feel. And hopefully they can do that through sign or whatever way they can.
Yeah, great. I think we've talked about a lot of good topics today. Let me think if there's anything else. Laura, do you have extra things you want to expand upon?
I can't think of anything else at this time. If any of you have any ideas or thoughts or feedback, please reach out to us. Um, we're very open to feedback, any comments or suggestions. So just, let us know what you think. And if you need to know more about any information, just feel free to share that with us. We'd really appreciate that.
So yes, our goal with these roundtables is to connect with the community at large in Vermont, if you are deaf or hard of hearing or deaf-blind. So really, we want to have these conversations, these chats between Laura and I about different topics so you can participate in that, see what's going on. So again, if you have any ideas, if you want us to keep talking about COVID or talk about other topics that you're concerned about, let us know. Or if you have like any random thoughts about things you want to talk about, send that our way, because we are happy to keep these roundtable discussions going to keep our connection with you. As I mentioned, COVID means that we have to be at a distance, and we're going to use technology. So you'll see these videos pop up from Zoom. That's our goal, is to share them as much as we can. So please give us that feedback, give us your tips, give us your topics. I also want to thank you to our two interpreters who have been voicing for us today, Elizabeth Fox and Karen Todd. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you both.
Thank you for watching.
And we appreciate your time, and thank you to the interpreters. And we all hope that you've enjoyed our little discussion today.
Take care.
Bye-bye now.